Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This was a requested video. You guys had asked me to describe what a subluxation feels like. So today I'm going to share with you what subluxations are, what they feel like, what causes them, and how I prevent them. So stay tuned. I'm actually attempting to do this video while my baby is not napping, so we shall see how this goes. I may need to change locations throughout this video, so we'll just see what happens. Yeah, that didn't last long. This little one needed mommy, so I'm gonna tend to her and just keep recording. The lighting is not the best up here, but this is where we are right now. So subluxations for me, and this is what this video is gonna be about. It's not gonna be across the board for everybody, just for me. This is my personal experience, and I'm not a doctor. Don't take anything I share here as medical advice. I'm just sharing my experience. So for me, my subluxations can be painful, and some of the time they are painless. Sometimes they're a loud crack. Sometimes they're just a light pop. Sometimes they don't make any noise at all. Sometimes they're a loud kind of a thunk. And sometimes they're more of like a grating, rough feeling of just a sliding motion, a rough sliding motion. So that is kind of how they feel to me. Now I'm going to give you some similes, I guess, to help you understand what it might feel like. So one of those would be if you're walking along at a brisk pace, let's say maybe you're barefoot, and you accidentally step on a rock or a pebble or a Lego, and you feel that immediate jolt of pain up through the sole of your foot, and you have to stop. You cannot take another step. That's kind of like what it feels like when your knee slips out of place or your elbow or something like that. Another one would be if you've ever tried to pull a drawer out and one of the wheels is off the track, the way that drawer feels when you pull it out, how it's really hard to move and it drags, and when you maneuver it just right, that wheel slips back into place and then the drawer can move freely. That's another way to kind of describe how a subluxation feels. When my shoulder subluxes, it feels like a worn out suction cup where you stick it to something and it just kind of pops off really easily. It also feels kind of like if you were to take a handful of wet paper towels and kind of rip them apart. There's a very awful, uncomfortable, painful, ripping, pulling sensation if I pull on my left arm and the humerus just comes out of the socket, and it's very uncomfortable, so I don't do that. Another way to describe it would be like if you've ever bent your fingernail back, like bent it completely back where it just kind of stayed there for a second. You have to stop and you have to flip it back, and it kind of sends shivers all through your body like fingernails on a blackboard. That is also the feeling that you get when a bone subluxes. Sorry for the movement. My baby here is wanting to put her foot in my face. This is a way that describes really accurately how my right elbow feels when it subluxes. So if you've ever tried to screw the lid on a jar, like a mason jar, and it wasn't threaded correctly to begin with, the tighter you try to screw it, the harder it is to go, and it reaches a point where it just won't turn any farther. And then what you have to do is you have to back it up, you have to screw it the opposite way and take it off, and then go forward again with it threaded correctly, and it moves just fine and goes all the way on correctly. So my elbow is that same way, where I will be moving it one direction and all of a sudden it will feel like it's definitely not threaded correctly and it won't go any farther to a point, and then it stops and I have to back it up and extend it again and then come back again and it will go correctly. Hi, are you done? So that is what subluxations feel like to me. That's my way of describing them. Now I'm going to share with you what they actually are. So what's actually happening in your joint when you have a subluxation. Is my nose? Oh, is that my nose? Is that my nose? I love you. Okay, she's all done, so I'm gonna finish up here. So what actually happens when you have a subluxation? Usually it is from low pressure created within the joint by the two parts of the joint moving apart and pulling gases into the synovial fluid. Now, I'm not a professional, so that might not be the actual most accurate description, but that's what I've learned. Other ways that those sounds might be caused are from tendons moving over bony prominences. Some of those snaps are caused by that. Other things like crepitus is kind of that crunching, grinding sound. Some of that is caused by worn cartilage or even bones rubbing against each other. Most of the time, though, it's caused from that air or the gas being pulled into those joint spaces from bones that are being pulled apart. Now, in people with joint hypermobility or ligament laxity, their bones obviously move apart more easily than people with tight, healthy ligaments and sound connective tissue. So that's why we pop and crack a whole lot more than most people, because we can just, go like this and bend our fingers down and the finger pops right out of place, or our elbows or our knees or our neck and things like that. Most of the time, those noises aren't anything to be concerned about. They're just noises, unless they continue from the same joint for a long period of time, or if they're accompanied by pain or swelling or anything like that. Sorry, my kids are making noise. There's nothing I can do about that. Some of the things that cause subluxations in me are any time that I am putting any unnecessary pressure or strain on the joint, like if I am kneeling or I'm sitting and I'm sitting on my feet and then I go to stand up. While I'm sitting, my ankles will just pull apart and the bones will come out of place, and then when I stand up, I have to limp for several steps as those bones go back into place. Other things are wearing shoes that are too tight, like tennis shoes. If I lace them up too tight, or if they're a little bit too heavy, they will actually pull my ankle bones apart and my ankles will sublux. Those usually don't make noise. Usually they just pull apart and I feel a sharp pain and then they go back. Sometimes they do crack really loudly though. Sometimes I'm just sitting on the couch and I just feel this weird pressure sensation in usually my ankle, and if I just flex my ankle, it will make a really loud crack. So somehow, I don't know what's happening there, pressure is building up in the joint and my body just tells me that I need to move that joint, and I move it and it cracks, and it's just weird. Other things that cause subluxations for me are walking, just walking, going upstairs, doing my hair or lifting my arms above my head. If I lift my arms to do my hair or to, wash my armpits or shave or anything like that, when I let my shoulders back down, they always crack and pop. If I'm doing laundry and I bend over to take clothes out of the washing machine, even if I make sure that it's just a small handful and it's not heavy, my mid-back has just popped out before and spasmed. Sometimes if I'm sitting with my head in one position, like looking at the camera or looking at the TV, and then I just turn my head, my neck will pop. If I eat or yawn or open my mouth too wide, my jaw will pop out of place and then pop back in. That is always painful. If I stand and then rotate slightly, a lot of times my hip will pop. And squatting. Every time I squat, my knees pop, and they've done that ever since I was a little girl. So what are some ways that I try to prevent my subluxations? Well, one of them is just knowing my body and knowing my limits, not trying to lift things that are too heavy. Definitely limiting the amount of overextending or hyperextending or overstretching of my joints. So I have to be very careful when I'm exercising or doing physical therapy that I do not stretch my joints or move my joints past where they should go. I try to make sure that I don't twist. So if I'm standing, I need to make sure that I don't twist at my knee. I try to turn and move my feet instead of just twisting at my knee. I also have got different aids to help me. So I have kitchen tools that do things instead of me having to chop or open jars or things like that. I get my husband to lift heavy things or open things for me. Another thing is I avoid really any vigorous movements, any type of contact sports. I don't run or jog or jump on trampolines. Anything that would cause any high impact to my body and my joints, I limit that or completely avoid it. If I'm going to be walking or doing an activity for any length of time that I know I need support with, I use my braces. I have some good knee braces and a shoulder brace. I also use kinesiology tape or KT tape. You can see it here on my shoulder. It's that plaid stuff. My physical therapist puts that on me, and my husband also puts it on me, and that helps a lot to just support and stabilize the joints. And then also, of course, I do physical therapy, and this is very important. I do it with someone who is familiar with EDS, and we follow the specific protocol in the Muldowney book. There's a book, I'll link to it in the description, on how to exercise and do physical therapy and build strength while not injuring yourself. And it's written specifically for people with EDS. And they say, you know, you spend half your life in bed and the other half on your feet or in a chair, I guess. So it's very important to have a good mattress, lots and lots of good supportive pillows, good shoes, good supportive shoes, and in my case, very lightweight shoes, because if they're heavy, they pull my ankles apart. And then also a good chair if you're going to be sitting at a desk for any long period of time. I also have very good soft cushioned mats in the kitchen because I stand in there a lot, and that helps cushion my feet as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful either for yourself or for someone you know or love who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. If you liked this video, please click like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting me know what you would like to see from me in the future. Have an awesome day.